Hey, what's up, guys? This is my first reaction video, so you're gonna have to bear with me a little bit. Still trying to get the hang of all this on OBS and everything, but I'm gonna be reacting today to, as you can see here, 11 reasons why millions have stopped watching WWE. As you guys probably know, I used to watch WWE. I was a huge fan from like 2005, maybe 06. To like 2015 and maybe 2016. So for about a decade. I fell out of love with the product because they were they're just putting everyone, people you knew that should have gone over, were not going over. They were just killing them for whatever reason, storyline wise, and it was just a horrible product to watch. So let's watch here. Let's see why the WWE has apparently lost millions of viewers. Enjoy.
We all knew there was something missing, something very important. That would be all of you, our fans, the WWE Universe.
Wrestling seems to be enjoying a comeback, with weekly wrestling shows airing Monday through Friday, ranging from big promotions like AEW and WWE to smaller promotions such as Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor and MLW. So why are fans tuning out of the WWE? What's creating this steady decline in world wrestling entertainment? Well, join us now as WrestleMania looks at 11 reasons why fans are turning off the WWE.
I'm one of those people. I don't watch it no more.
Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos,
sure
and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists.
We used to see things eye to eye, and then somewhere along the way, it all went wrong, and I'm trying to figure out why.
Number 1, a worthless women's division. The WWE can boast about its women's revolution and how the company has come a long way from the Divas era, and while the days of Playboy pillow fights and bra and panty matches seem to be over, the WWE continues to treat its female athletes as an afterthought. Whether it's female performers disappearing for weeks at a time, the WWE randomly pairing women into tag teams, and yes, we do know the WWE does this with its men, that doesn't count as treating the men and women equally, or a lack of building new stars, the women's division is pretty awful. Other than Bayley, it's difficult to think of any female performer who's been booked well. Raw's women's division went into cruise control once Becky Lynch took time off for maternity leave, despite the presence of Shayna Baszler, Asuka, and the opportunity to call up NXT standouts such as Rhea Ripley. Just remember the time that Shayna plowed through about 5 women in the Elimination Chamber match? What happened to that? How did WWE not carry on that dominance? Well, no matter how much Stephanie McMahon brags that the WWE pushes its female wrestlers as much as the males, the weekly product says otherwise.
And Shayna Baszler! No! And Nia Jax slips!
What happened again to Nia?
What?
And no, throwing Sasha Banks versus Bella into the main event on night 1 of WrestleMania doesn't make up for a year of badly booking its women. Number 2, endless rematches. Did you miss that pay-per-view match between 2 of your favourite wrestlers? Well, chances are you won't have to worry, because the WWE will air it the next day on Raw or a few days later on SmackDown. That's only the beginning though, as the WWE repeats the same bout a few more times before airing it again on pay-per-view. The WWE's recycling program is a testament to the sheer laziness found in WWE creative. Rematches can be exciting when done properly, whether it's adding a stipulation to a subsequent match or bringing in a tag partner to help out in a singles feud. However, several weeks of the same wrestlers competing with the same results is a formula for failure when it comes to wooing fans. Number 3, breaking up good teams. The WWE's tag division has been poorly booked for some time, but never has there been such an explosion of teams splitting up. Breaking up tag teams is a time-honored tradition in professional wrestling, as it's been used to effectively set up big feuds with the intent of creating 1 or 2 single stars from that team. When done right, a tag team split can create some riveting drama as fans watch friends turn into foes. Well, the problem, like many WWE storylines, is a lack of planning and follow-up. There have been numerous instances of badly booked breakups, including the Iconics and Heavy Machinery. In the Iconics' case, the WWE reportedly wanted to push Peyton Royce as a single star, but that never happened. Instead, she was inexplicably paired with Lacey Evans. Why would you split up an established tag team that could help the women's tag team division only to form an inferior team? Even worse, the Royces-Evans tag team quickly became overshadowed by Evans' feud with Charlotte Flair. As for Heavy Machinery, the WWE had a popular team that provided a mix of power wrestling and comedy, then split them up when Tucker turned heel.
Oh my God, what the hell? Tucker just clocked his best friend with the briefcase!
While it's questionable how much interest the fans would have had watching the two men fight, they never gave him a chance as Tucker was drafted to Raw. Number 4, ignoring fan favorites. Now we've talked about the WWE splitting up popular teams, but the problem goes even deeper than that. The WWE's refusal to push wrestlers that fans get behind, whether they're faces or heels, has never been more apparent than with the situation involving the Hurt Business. While MVP's work with Bobby Lashley helped Lashley complete his journey from poorly pushed uppercard wrestler to monster main eventer, it's doubtful many fans saw Cedric Alexander and veteran Shelton Benjamin getting strong thanks to their inclusion in the Hurt Business. Naturally, the WWE split the group up just when they were going over strong. The Hurt Business is the biggest example of popular wrestlers who've been thrown on the scrap heap, but there are others including main eventer Braun Strowman and undercard stars such as Ricochet, Aleister Black, King Corbin, Chad Gable, and Shinsuke Nakamura. Number 5, pathetic payoffs. We've all heard the phrase, it's not so much about the destination as it is about the journey, and in some respects this applies to storytelling. However, no matter how good the build-up for a story is, fans expect a substantial payoff when it comes time to executing a feud or ending one. Let's look at the two examples of the biggest potential money feuds that had terrible payoffs. The first is the heavily featured feud between the Golden Role Models team of Bayley and Sasha Banks. The two gelled well as two arrogant heels that fans knew were going to eventually end up fighting. While they were forced to drag this feud out longer than anyone wanted, rumor has it they were hoping to have fans at 2020 SummerSlam, and when they didn't happen, that kept the feud.
Yeah, man, they just break up teams.
Going.
Yeah, they just break up teams randomly, and I mean, they kill guys and gals that you know who need to be pushed, and then they book them in the worst possible situations ever. Ugh. I mean, what is Vince doing?
Well, that's excusable. The WWE painted themselves into a corner when they finally had Bayley turn on Sasha Banks, putting the two in a Hell in a Cell match for their first match. As fans know, Hell in a Cell is usually where feuds end, so when Banks beat Bayley, there was nowhere for the feud to go, and they took the cheap way out by Bayley saying she'd fight Banks again, but only when she was ready and on her terms. The next fizzled feud was The Fiend vs Randy Orton. Despite The Fiend's pinfall loss to Goldberg at 2020 Super Showdown, Bray Wyatt's demonic doppelganger had been booked strongly, so the WWE cleverly booked the two in a Firefly Inferno match, thus giving Orton a way to beat The Fiend without pinning him or making him submit. Afterwards, the WWE teased The Fiend's return and managed to keep fans guessing when he'd return for revenge. Incredibly, they didn't have The Fiend return until Fastlane, setting up a high-profile match for WrestleMania 37. Unfortunately, the match as was anticlimactic as it could be, with Bliss turning heel on The Fiend and Orton pinning The Fiend clean in just 5 minutes. Not to mention with just one RKO. Fans are still wondering what happened at WrestleMania to cause The Fiend to lose. Did Alexa Bliss find a way to rob The Fiend of his powers? Did he have somewhere he needed to be in 10 minutes? Pathetic payoffs to promising programs are another way to anger and alienate your audience. Number 6, poor planning. The WWE's writers have a number of problems ranging from laziness to having to deal with Mr. McMahon's mercurial mind that sees him change things with no apparent rhyme or reason. This means that even the best of ideas tend to run into obstacles when it comes to creating and executing long-term storylines, an essential element of keeping fans tuned in every week. One of the biggest examples of WWE's poor planning is Otis's unlikely and downright shocking Money in the Bank briefcase win at 2020. The angle, while surprising, was a good direction for Otis, a character who had gotten over thanks to his storyline romance with Mandy Rose. However, as the months went on, it became clear they had no idea what to do with Otis having the briefcase in his possession, and they ran an overbooked angle where The Miz won the briefcase thanks to a meaningless heel turn by Otis' partner Tucker. Thankfully, they did get some mileage out of The Miz winning the briefcase, but Otis winning it was poorly thought out, and the feeble follow-up damaged his character, as well as the fans' already shaky faith in the WWE's capability at crafting long-term storylines. Number 7. Boring feuds. We've already looked at the WWE's difficulties giving fans satisfactory payoffs for its storylines, but feuds deserve a mention for the WWE's difficulty in managing them. They occasionally get a feud on the right foot, such as 2020's Orton vs. Edge feud. However, the WWE doesn't understand the basic outline of any drama. Like Banks vs. Bayley, they put Edge and Randy Orton in a last man standing match for their first encounter, then expected fans to see them wrestle to see who the best wrestler was in the greatest match ever. Fans also find themselves frustrated by the lack of interesting undercard feuds. Number 8. Awful announcing. The WWE has more than a wrestling problem. It has an announcing problem as fans debate what's worse, the product in the ring or the men calling the action. Michael Cole isn't as much awful as he is consistently mediocre. Cole is the epitome of someone who phones it in, relying on cliches. Corey Graves has his moment, but like any potentially entertaining announcer, you can't help but wonder if Vince McMahon has him wearing a shock vest that sets off if he gets too creative. Samoa Joe was a welcome addition to Raw, so naturally they got rid of him. Thankfully, there's a glimmer of hope on SmackDown thanks to the addition of Pat McAfee. The downside is there's no telling whether Vince McMahon will grind the former NFL star's performance down to the level of the other WWE announcers. Number 9. Corny Comedy. For wrestling fans, there are few things as bad as trying to get a friend to check out wrestling only to have the WWE make its latest pitiful attempt at comedy. Whether it's Riddle riding around on his stupid scooter, The New Day throwing tomatoes at Elias and Jackson Riker, or Nia Jax falling on her ass when she's not potatoing opponents, there are plenty of reasons for potential fans to tune out and regular fans to turn red with embarrassment. They have enough trouble writing wrestling and should work on improving the wrestling product before trying comedy. It's next to impossible for wrestlers to pull off the comedy bits that DX, The Rock, and even Stone Cold Steve Austin pulled off during the Attitude Era, not so much because the product was PG-13, but because today's product is so heavily scripted. Number 10. Failing to promote television and pay-per-views. Is the WWE afraid to let fans know which matches to expect, otherwise risking fans tuning out before a Raw or a pay-per-view airs? Why else wouldn't the WWE promote television matches ahead of time? Fans like to know what's coming up on TV or pay-per-view rather than just tuning in and hoping for the best. Building up matches also makes the matches seem even more important because if they're getting behind them and the wrestlers are talking them up, there's a feeling they mean something. A part of the problem is that the WWE feels its pay-per-views largely sell themselves. The second is that Vince McMahon rewrites the WWE script so often that it's difficult, if not impossible, to announce a match when the WWE's head honcho decides to change things a minute before the show. And number 11, the WWE's reputation. Now there is another reason that the WWE universe is tuning out. The WWE's sketchy business practices. As more people support or boycott businesses with disreputable reputations, it's understandable why people wouldn't want to support the WWE. The company's laundry list of bad behavior includes its ongoing business arrangement with Saudi Arabia, its mass releases and firings in 2020 during the pandemic, what some observers saw as sloppy safeguards during the pandemic, them demanding that its wrestlers turn over their third-party deals such as Cameo to it for its own monetization, or labeling wrestlers as independent contractors when they treated as employees. Fans just can't stomach supporting a promotion that treats its wrestlers and workers so poorly. This may be one of the lesser factors for fans tuning out, but it's a reason for some. But there you have it, guys, 11 reasons why fans are turning off WWE. If you guys agree or disagree with the points, let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.
Yeah, great video. So, yeah, that's pretty much why I quit watching the WWE too. I mean, they were just killing people, you know, their characters, I mean, that you knew should have been pushed. Also, too, anytime I turn it on, and I haven't watched it in probably about 5 or 6 years, but anytime I turn it on, the product just gets worse and worse and worse. Like, the storylines go nowhere, the product is horrible, and why would I watch that crap when I can watch videos like this that tell me everything I need to know? You know, so... Alright guys, that was my first reaction video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, make sure to hit that like button. Feel free to comment and to subscribe. Thank you guys.